What if I told you the man who defined rock and roll had a secret life as a movie star? Elvis Presley wasn't just a legend on stage, he was a box office phenomenon for over a decade. But here's the kicker. While his films are often dismissed as campy or cheesy, the women who shared the screen with him were anything but forgettable. These weren't just sidekicks. They were icons in their own right, each with their own story, and yet their legacies are often buried under the weight of Elvis' larger-than-life persona. Personally, I think that's a shame. Because when you dig deeper, these women reveal something fascinating about the era, the industry, and even Elvis himself. Take Dolores Hart, for example. She kissed Elvis on camera in a Loving You and later had to hide her blushing cheeks with makeup. But here's what really gets me. She walked away from Hollywood entirely in 1963 to become a nun. Imagine the pressure of being in the spotlight with the king of rock and roll, then choosing to leave it all behind for a life of quiet devotion. What does that say about the expectations placed on women in that time? It's almost like she was trying to escape the very thing that made her famous. Then there's Barbara Eden, who later became the bewitching star of I Dream of Jeannie. She worked with Elvis in Flaming Star, a western that required more than just glamour, it needed acting. And guess what? She said Elvis delivered. But here's the twist, people didn't appreciate it. They just saw the music man, not the actor. That's wild, isn't it? It makes me wonder how many other talents were overlooked because they were too busy being the Elvis in someone else's story. Ursula Andress, the Bond girl from DR, worked with Elvis in Fun in Acapulco. Rumors of a romance were rampant, but she was married, and Elvis, according to his friend Alan Fortas, wasn't the type to mess with married women. But here's what I find fascinating. Even in the era of strict social norms, Elvis had a reputation for being selective. It's like he had his own code, even if the world saw him as a playboy. And then there's Ann-Margret. Oh, Ann-Margret. She wasn't just a co-star in Viva Las Vegas, she was a force of nature. She sang with Elvis, danced with him, and had a romance that's still shrouded in mystery. But what's wild is how she managed to stand out in a career where so many female leads faded into the background. It's almost like she was the only one who could match Elvis' energy on screen. Or maybe she just had the guts to demand more from the role. Shelley Fabares, the girl from The Donna Reed Show, had a unique claim to fame. She was the only woman to appear in 3 Elvis films. But here's the thing, her hit song Johnny Angel was dethroned by Elvis' Good Luck Charm. That's not just a fun fact, it's a reminder of how much power Elvis had over the music charts. It's like he could walk into a room and change the entire landscape of pop culture with a single note. Donna Douglas, best known as Ellie Mae Clampett, played a riverboat entertainer in Frankie and Johnny. She had a spiritual connection with Elvis, and they even meditated together. That's not something you hear every day. It makes me wonder, was Elvis just another celebrity with a spiritual side, or was he genuinely seeking something deeper, in a world that often reduced him to a caricature? And finally, Mary Tyler Moore. Before she became the iconic TV star, she played a nun in Change of Habit, where she met Elvis. She wrote about how he confessed to having a crush on her since The Dick Van Dyke Show. Can you imagine? The king of rock and roll being shy around a woman. It's almost poetic, isn't it? It humanizes him in a way that the mythos of his career often forgets. So what does all this tell us? Elvis wasn't just a one-man show. He was part of a larger tapestry of talent, each woman bringing something unique to his films. But more than that, their stories reveal a side of Hollywood that's rarely explored, the quiet sacrifices, the unspoken tensions, and the way fame can shape, and sometimes break, lives. If you take a step back and think about it, these women weren't just co-stars. They were collaborators, confidants, and in some cases, even rivals in a world that demanded they stay in the shadows. What makes this really interesting is how their legacies are still being rediscovered decades later. Because in the end, it wasn't just Elvis who defined an era, it was the people who stood beside him, even if history forgot their names.